So, in this video, I'm going to show you what it's like to run the NVIDIA GTX 980 Ti in your PC. I've had the card running in my PC now for about 7 days and played a variety of games on this thing, so I think I'm in a good position to give my opinion on it. Just as a reference, previously I had the GTX 780 Ti, which the 980 Ti is a direct upgrade of, but the 980 Ti itself uses pretty much the same setup as the new Titan X card, only it's a little bit less powerful. And the Titan is currently the fastest single GPU in the world. The main difference between the two cards is that the 980 Ti has 6GB of VRAM in comparison to the Titan's 12GB, and the 980 has a few less GPU cores and texture units. Essentially, it's like the Titan X's little brother, and one that maybe more people could afford as well. I'm running these games on ultra settings at 1080p, minus motion blur and anti-aliasing, because both of those settings tank frame rates in games and they're totally not necessary. And anti-aliasing has been known to cause input lag from your mouse as well, so it's always best to steer clear of that if you can. My setup running these games is an Intel i7-3770K CPU running at a stock rate of 3.5 GHz, cooled by a Corsair H60 closed-loop liquid cooler, an ASRock Extreme 4 motherboard, and 12GB of RAM, so plenty enough to run the latest games anyway. Now, let's have a look at some games, shall we? Some of them that I'll review here do have NVIDIA-specific features, like Hairworks, and others won't have those features. This will give you a good overview of how the card performs in most games. This, of course, is Crysis 3, always a true test of your gaming rig's power. The frame rate is magnified in the top left-hand corner there for you to see, and outside, actually, I was really surprised here. With all the particle effects, I was surprised to see the frame rate running so high. As a pointer, my 780 Ti could only manage 45 FPS out here with all the settings cranked up to ultra, so you really can see the power of the 980 Ti with its extra VRAM and GPU cores working hard to keep that frame rate above 60. It's worth noting that this game was designed in partnership with AMD, not NVIDIA, and I think the recommended card was the 7970 if I can think back. I actually had that card and it was pretty good for its time, but it's about 3 years old now and the 980 Ti clearly outperforms it. If you want to get a more consistent frame rate, one that you're more comfortable with, then maybe you could turn some of the settings down to high and medium and you'd be looking at 90 to 120 FPS constantly. But as you can see here, playing on ultra, sometimes the frame rate does drop below 60 FPS. That tells you just how demanding the CryEngine really is. Next up, we have The Witcher 3 Wild Hunt. Here once again running on full ultra settings with the 60 FPS cap switched off in the options. Here I got frame rates hovering around 55 to 60 FPS, which I was really happy with, but considering I was running on a 144Hz monitor, it was very clear and easy to see the difference when the frame rate did drop down lower. The game itself looks absolutely stunning, and with NVIDIA options like Hairworks enabled, the game really does shine as one of the best of 2015 so far. My 780 Ti was chugging along at around 40 FPS at this point, again showing the power of the 980 Ti under its hood. Certain areas and scenes in the game will perform better than others though. For example, if you're inside buildings, the card doesn't need to process as many textures and anywhere near the draw distance. But for me, hovering around 55 FPS was more than acceptable for smooth gameplay. Third in our list is Battlefield 4. This once again is an older title now, having debuted in October 2013, but it still looks great in my opinion. Playing on the map Dawnbreaker here, which is probably one of the least laggy maps in the game, on a full rush server, so about 32 players in the map here. You may not think it, but the more going on in the server, i.e. the more players that are in it, can affect the frame rate. With explosions going off all over the place on maps like Operation Metro and Operation Locker, the frame rate there suffered a little bit more than it does right now, but as you can see, the frame rates are running smooth around 90 to 160 FPS, which is pretty amazing, I must say. Again, my 780 Ti was no slouch here, clocking in from around 60 to 110 FPS as well, So really, if your main title on PC is Battlefield 4 or any of the Frostbite games really, the 980 Ti isn't going to offer you a noticeable difference. If you do want to be on the bleeding edge and play on ultra settings, then the 980 or the 980 Ti will probably be beneficial to you, but if you're happy playing at high and medium settings, then something like the 970 might be a better option. If you do upgrade to any of the 900 series cards though, it does give you the ability to create custom fan curves in MSI Afterburner, which means theoretically up to a certain temperature, you could have the fan switched off to keep noise low. You can do that with the 980 Ti, 980, 970. It's a really good option to have because if you've got your PC on the desk next to you, and it sounds pretty loud with my 780 Ti sometimes when I'm playing demanding games, you actually have the option to turn the fan off up to a certain temperature. So if you're playing games that really aren't that strenuous, you could be having a silent gaming PC next to you. And finally, well, I was going to show you Batman Arkham Knight, but honestly, I installed it, tried to launch it, and it just wouldn't go. It crashed 10 times in 10 attempts of getting it to launch, 5 with and 5 without the FPS cap. I turned it on and off in between each one. I guess we'll just have to wait and see what Rocksteady and Iron Galaxy have for us in August, because I can't even get to the main menu. I've never played the game before. I tried to play it. I couldn't even get to the main menu, which was really disappointing, because I was going to run sort of the in-game performance test for you, because I know there's a lot of graphical issues sort of in the game right now. So in running that PC performance test, I could have given you some idea of how the game would have performed, but it won't even launch. So, in conclusion, the 980 Ti is an insanely good graphics card and definitely the one to buy if you want to max out any game and get a good playable frame rate at 60 FPS. If you're playing at higher than 1440p resolution or with multiple monitors, then maybe the Titan X is a better card for you with that extra VRAM. But for 1080p, it's not really worth it, considering it's £200 more than the 980 Ti. If you already have a 780 Ti, then I'd probably say you don't need this card unless you want to be on the bleeding edge of what graphics cards can offer. And if this is out of your price range, then the standard 980 is more than capable and has seen a little bit of a price reduction because of the 980 Ti. And if you're looking for a more budget build, then the 970 is definitely the way to go. But thanks very much for watching. Leave me a thumbs up down below and a comment letting me know what you thought of the video. Do you like this kind of style where I review something? It's not something I normally do, but I thought I'd give it a go. And leave some comments. If you're thinking about buying a 980 Ti, then I'll be happy to answer as many questions as I can, or maybe just point you in the right direction. But until next time, my name is Westie, and I'll catch you guys in the next video.